This right here is the Tamron 70-300, and today we're gonna see if this lens can handle the Los Angeles National Forest. So stick around, let's do some landscape photography. What's up, y'all? It is the Project Photography back with another video, and today we have an incredible episode with some POV landscape photography with this lens, the Tamron 70-300, here in the Los Angeles National Forest. And I think this is a great place to test some telephoto lenses like this because there's a ton of mountains and a lot of faraway subjects that we can isolate in the background. I think it's a great place to test this lens, and of course, I've shot here before to test lenses just like this. But I think this will be an interesting test for this lens in particular because in my first impressions video, I kind of highlighted that this lens does not have image stabilization. And when the light gets down here, it gets really down. So we're gonna be testing this lens to see how it performs in low light, how far I can push the shutter speed to the point where we have to use like 1/5 of a second, and see overall how this affects the performance of the lens. But I'm excited to come and shoot. I haven't been here in a very long time, but at the moment it is about 3:30 give or take, and it might take about an hour and a half until the sun goes fully down. But until then, we're gonna take a look around. I'm gonna see some compositions that I like, and one of them that I really like is one behind you guys. With that being said, let's get on and do some landscape photography and take a look around. So I think I found my second area that I want to shoot at, and I think I'm going to limit myself to only 3 areas to go and actually take photos, mainly because I really like that last area, or the first one that I saw. I think that can be a really nice place to actually take some of the final images of the day. But one area I really like is this area right here. So I think I can create a composition with these mountains in the background with my telephoto lens. I think probably around the ballpark of maybe 100 millimeters, give or take, but I think it'll create a really interesting image. But the reason why I don't want to go too far or try to take too many photos is because then I'll miss some of the opportunities that I found initially. So I'm definitely going to be limiting myself there. But it's really interesting coming back to the Los Angeles National Forest because this is a place I've shot before, and really see how some of my skills as a photographer has evolved. And when it comes to landscape photography, it's really not just about how well you can create compositions, but also how well you can actually find the composition in the first place where you want to shoot at. And that's a really important skill as a landscape photographer. And I think for me, that's something I really want to work on and focus on. So this is the shot I kind of want to get. I think it'll be really interesting. So it's going to deal with this mountain range in the background, and I think it's going to create a really nice sense of separation between this kind of foreground stuff. And I just really think it'll be an interesting composition. These valleys right here make a really nice sort of, focal point that you can take a look at. So I really think this will be an interesting place to actually come shoot. So I just want to find one more probably composition a little bit farther up, and then we'll just go from there and take all the images that we want, and then just wait for sunset. All right, y'all, as you can see, the light is going down quite significantly, and this is a great time to actually shoot. And I'm actually really excited to get these photos because this is the last and final location that I'm actually going to be shooting at. Only 3 locations because for me, I feel like I'd rather pre-plan my shots, make sure I grab them so I can make sure that, that when the light's going down, I don't have to worry about, oh, what am I going to shoot? I already have the shots pre-planned, and we can go ahead and just capture when the light is nice and low. I think that's something I really learned on this shoot in particular. If I have extra time, why not go ahead and just pre-plan the shot so I have to really think about it? So this is definitely one shot I want to get. And then after, I'm going to go down to the other sections and go ahead and shoot those that I already mentioned. So with that being said, guys, let's go ahead and get some landscape photography. I'll put you guys on my GoPro to get a first-person point of view. What's up, y'all? Now behind the scenes, behind the camera, I'm giving a little commentary as to what I'm trying to do when I'm actually creating these images and whatnot. So right here, what I'm trying to do is actually create a photo where these valleys are kind of converging. And I'm going to be essentially using the same composition for my next image that is an HDR. So what an HDR is capturing 5 different photos of the exact same composition, but with just different exposures. So we're able to get as much dynamic range as possible, and we can merge in post-production to have almost like infinite dynamic range. The reason why this is important for me, at least, is because right now I'm shooting everything in silent shutter, so electronic shutter, because the camera kind of has problems with shake and shutter slap when I'm actually shooting. This is the final image, but HDR is very important in this situation because with a electronic shutter, getting decreased dynamic range. So with HDR, we can hopefully increase the dynamic range. So this is the final image. I really like this photo. I think we have really pleasing soft colors, and I think it's just a great composition overall, as a lot of these valleys and peaks are kind of converging right in the middle, and that's exactly what we're capturing. So that's the only real photo that I actually like from that area, and we're gonna go ahead and move on, go to the second location that I kind of highlighted in the video, and it's right near this highway essentially. And we're gonna run across and make sure to capture the mountains in the background that I kind of talked about earlier. And mind you, this is all when the sun is going down. I had to be very mindful of the time because when I'm shooting, especially in Los Angeles National Forest, I feel like things get really fast in terms of the light going down. So I had to make sure to capture these really quickly. It looks like it's pretty bright out, but trust me, it was not. And you'll see it kind of in the photos, but right here, I'm kind of trying to get the same idea as a previous photo. So having those values kind of converge in the center and capturing that, using that as my main composition. And as you can see here, we're mainly highlighting that center sort of peak within this valley. And I think it comes out to a really interesting photo. Again, doing the same thing as HDR. And I actually had quite a bit of hard time editing this because I felt like there was a lack of colors. I felt like it was pretty neutral. But overall, I think the composition is really nice. I love the values converging. And I really noticed that peak on the right-hand side with a lot of light. So that's actually the next image that I want to capture. So I go ahead and put my camera into vertical orientation, turn that around. And we're really going to be highlighting that peak right there because for me, something like this is really crucial because it creates a nice sense of contrast, right? We have this peak with a lot of light on it. And everything else is kind of dull. There's a lack of light. So we really want to go ahead and highlight that peak because I feel like it would be the most interesting subject matter here. So same thing again, capturing those HDR, doing the 5 exposures and then combining them in post to get the most dynamic range possible. And I think we come up with a pretty interesting image right here. And as you can see, those peaks that are being lit up right there really gives it a sense of uniqueness and contrast between the rest of the frame, which is really dark. Especially having a ton of snow on there makes it even more interesting. So we're gonna go ahead and move on. We're gonna go change locations right up to our third location, kind of mentioned earlier, and that will be our last location. I felt like I really knew what I was trying to do here. I wasn't necessarily trying to create a bunch of different compositions because I made sure to scout these locations out before and capture the images that I wanted to capture so that when I actually came back here, I wouldn't have to be messing around with, oh yeah, is this composition good or not? Because time is of the essence, especially when I'm shooting landscape photography and the light is going down during sunset. So I'm gonna go ahead and just capture just one image here. I don't think it's as necessary to do HDR, mainly because I'm using the mechanical shutter. And also too, right, like we have a very evenly lit exposure, so we don't have a high sense of contrast between the highlights and the shadows. Everything is pretty evenly lit, so we don't have to worry about high contrast, so which is why just a single exposure is perfectly fine for me. But in this photo, really trying to highlight those mountains in the background, this is where the range of the 70-300 comes into play. I can really highlight that background, the mountains at least, and then showcase these converging sort of valleys. And I think it really just creates a lot of depth in the image because you know that that mountain is so far away. I personally thought vertical was a really interesting composition, and that was probably the one to go for sure. But we're gonna go ahead and capture one in horizontal orientation. And this is gonna create definitely a different sense of what I was trying to do. It creates a different image because the orientation has changed. So we're gonna go ahead and see what we capture here. And obviously no HDR, same thing as before. And this is the edited version. And as you can see, as this one and the one before, I really feel like it was difficult to edit this. I feel like it was super low contrast and not a lot of light, to be honest. And the colors were just very dull. So I had to try to do what was best, but I think overall it's a pretty decent image. So anyways, guys, that is pretty much it for me actually shooting. Here are the 3 images that I actually like the most. I think this one's definitely my favorite. Really great hazy feel to the image for sure. I think that's exactly what I was going here. This is probably my favorite composition of the day. I really feel like, you know, showcasing that depth in the image with the light in the back, as well as showcasing those values converging, was definitely something interesting. And then the final image, I think this is probably my least favorite edit for sure, but this was definitely not that easy to edit, but I think we came out with a lovely composition. If the light was a little better, probably come out with a better one. But yeah, guys, let me know what was your favorite image down in the comment section down below, and let's get right back to the video. All right, y'all, it is now very dark, as you can tell. It actually got really dark really fast because it was supposed to be that sunset was around 5:15, give or take, and it's only like 5:30, if I'm not mistaken. It's only 5:36, and look how dark it's gone. It's kind of crazy. But anyways, guys, that is pretty much it for today. I think we got some really good photos. These last pair of photos were definitely very interesting because it was very blue, very dark. So we'll see how it goes. And yeah, Tamron 70-300 was the lens I was using for today. Next week is going to be the review on that lens. So make sure you're subscribed and stay tuned for that. It's going to be a real interesting review. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for experiencing the world with me today. Please feel free to rate, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.